Okay, boys. So we missed a couple of weeks, and therefore there's a bit of a hiatus in the continuity. So let's just review a little bit as to where we're holding. We are dealing with the concepts of toihu and tikkun. Toihu is an oilam; it's a world. In fact, really, in a sense, it's the first world in terms of actual spheres, artis v'kelim, that emerges during the creative process, but it doesn't work. Toihu does not work. Toihu is the source. The toihu is the level at which there's a shvira. Now, the shvira has incredible consequences for the way the creation looks and explains a great deal of what's going on in our world today, but that's not our issue at the moment. Our issue at the moment is to understand why there is a shvira. What happened and why it happened. The rectification, the immediate rectification, top down, for the shvira is oilam hatikkun, which is oilam ha'atzilus. The rest of the tikkunim, which are in Bri, Yitzir, and Asiya, are left to us. The Rabbanu Shalom did us a favor by being masakin the artist and kelim of Atzilus. And the rest of creation is up to us, is left to us. So the question is, what are we dealing with here? The Eitz Chaim points out that the difference between oilam ha'toihu, which does not work, and oilam hatikkun, which does work, is in the nature of the artis v'kelim. So in oilam hatikkun, oilam ha'toihu, I should say, is described as having a great or and minuscule kalim. The problem with toihu is the kalim are small, the or is great, the or it's a misfit. The or does not fit the kalim, and this is the source of shvira. Tikkun is the other way around. Tikkun has broad kalim, and the or is somewhat reduced, but it works. So now the question is, what do these things mean? These are Kabbalistic expressions, Lashon Kabbalah. What does that actually mean? So the Rebbe gave us the example of what it means, miut hakeli, small keli. What is a small keli? What are we talking about here? In general, we're all aware of the fact that a keli is a koyach hagvul. It's a capacity to limit, to restrict, to define. Or is hispashtus, it's a illumination, it's revelation, unfettered. And the marriage of artis v'kelim produce a creation which is ordered, which is intended, which is purposeful, and balanced, which is the way the Rabbanu Shalom wants it. This did not happen in Olam HaToyus. The Iker here is the kelim. I mean, of course, the artists were expansive, too expansive. But really, the cause of even the aris being inappropriate are the kalim. So, what means katnas hakeli? What means small kalim? The Rebbe gave the example of a tinuk, of a child. How does a child take concepts? He takes it b'derech klal. The child is incapable of seeing nuances in situations and ideas. Everything's black and white. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. And there are consequences. Those of us who are parents and grandparents are very familiar with this. So a child will take a katnos hakeli, smallness of vessel, means the vessel is incapable of sensing specifics and details and pratim in or. It takes it b'derech klal. It takes it as a totality, as a general thing. And therefore, it can't see anything other than what the general appearance happens to be. So if something is bad, it is bad. In a sense, this is purity in a way. It shows you how destructive purity can be. The fury of a child who has taken a concept as being negative, as being contrary to his will, as being bad. I mean, there is no fury like this. This is, and you can't reason them out of it. You got to sort of wait till they peter out and they fall asleep or something. So it's just the idea is black or white. If it's white, then you have it's wonderful. There's nothing in between. There are no grays here. There are no nuances. And therefore, a child is not capable of dissecting a concept, not capable of prioritizing, not capable of seeing that everything that seems to be bad has some good, and the pratim, the specifics and details that are good, are truly good. And there are bad aspects, well, those are the bad aspects, and therefore the response of an adult who has a broad keli is not to take a concept b'derech klal, but to take it and to receive its pratim, to sense and to internalize the specifics in the concept. And therefore an incident may cause anger, it may be bad in the eyes of an adult, but it's a complicated story, and therefore the adult will see in the incident reasons to be malam chafsus, reasons to not get so upset. May still be angry, but it'll never be the anger of a child, and we'll see dimensions and details. The idea of a child kicking and screaming in a toy store is a very good example. But I think the best example, which I haven't used, but the best examples are the ones you remember yourself. When I was a little kid, now a kid gets a ear infection, Gornish, you put them on oral antibiotic. Well, when I was a kid, it was a major story. First of all, you were in bed, okay? And you required an injection of penicillin. That's all was available when I was a little kid. It was a whole drama, because the doctor would come to Dr. Noah's coming to the house. And you know what? You're going to have a shot. And to a little kid, this is I remember the feeling. It's a horror. It's an absolute horror. It's like, but to a child, it's a horror. And in those days, there was no such thing as throwaway syringes and needles. Dr. Noah came to the house. Mommy put a pot of water on the stove to boil so he could boil his needles. You're upstairs in bed, trembling with fear. Dr. Noah's boiling his stuff downstairs and trying to figure out what kind of dose of penicillin to use, because in those days it really wasn't very well worked out. And you're sittering there. And I remember the crying. I remember, I'm talking about 5, 6 years old. I remember the sheer evil, the badness of the situation. And it absorbed me. It took me over completely. It's a pinprick. Doesn't matter. It's going to heal me. I'm going to be out of bed because of this penicillin. Thank God there's such a thing as penicillin. These things were not available to me. These thoughts were not available. What was available was a klal, a general idea that this man came over to stick me with a needle. And I didn't understand how the needle worked anyway. I didn't really even realize there's a drug in there that enters your body. I thought the whole ritual was just to cause pain, and somehow or another that fixed everything up. And it was, I remember taking it in a way of absolute horror and revulsion. That's the way I looked at it. Mind you, when it was over, I could never remember what it was that I got so hysterical about. But there are two things. First of all, it was taken as a klal. The pratim are clear. Yes, no one likes to get stuck with a needle. Okay. First of all, it's not so bad, number one. Number two, there's a healing that comes from this. There are dimensions, the good dimensions certainly outweigh the bad dimensions. And if I had the ability to think about the specifics, the details which encompass this event, so then, no adult, even an adult doesn't like to get a shot, but it's not so horrible. That's number one. Number two, the second thing which we're going to touch on in this next ois, not only the subject is taken b'derech klal, and therefore the response is one of pure negativity, unadulterated by any modulating sense of goodness or sophistication at all. It's not only taken as a klal, but it takes up your whole brain. This is the point that Reb's going to raise, is that not only the idea is taken b'derech klal, but your entire mind it's mukif. In your entire mind, you have no room for anything else. So even if mommy tells you, something, it's 2 seconds, and it'll make you better, take your fever down, your ear will start. Mind you, the pain of the ear was much worse than the pain of the needle. It didn't matter. I mean, it's going to stick me in the needle. So the idea that there was no room in my head to consider anything else. She could talk all until she's blue in the face. Doesn't matter, because my whole brain is submerged in the needle. And therefore, there's no room for another thought. It's a klal, and it's an all-encompassing klal, totally occupying every bit of space in my head. This is what's called katmas hakeli. By an adult, the obvious thing is that, so it has its negative aspects, but not terrible, and the positive outweighs the negative. Or even in situations where the negative could be quite harsh, Rahman al-Islam. Nonetheless, an adult comes to grips with it. An adult comes to an acceptance because one is able to see the thing in a broader context, and most importantly, to see the specifics of the situation. When you have specifics, that means you can internalize the concept. It becomes something which is digestible to your thinking. When you basically, what a makif is, what it takes something b'derech klal is, you can't swallow it. It's just stuck in your head, and it just overwhelms. So this is the idea of a broad keli of tikkun, in the case where the incident or the revelation is taken in all of its particulars and specifics, which are weighed and measured and prioritized. And in the case of a keli which does not have that capacity, it does not have the machinery to be able to dissect, to be able to analyze, to be able to even pick out pratim. It can only deal with general subjects. That's all it can deal with. Mind you, this isn't always bad. I mean, the union of klal and prat, the mashal, you take 10-year-old children, you can teach them Mishnah. You can't teach them Gemara. The Mishnah is essentially a klal for the Gemara. And the child can absorb the Mishnah to a certain extent, can actually, of course there are pratim in the Mishnah as well, but they're general pratim. The Gemara is the details of Shakla V'Tari and all the pratim that come out in the Gemara. It's for someone with a more mature mind and someone who's able to take things prat, which means an adult, a mature thinker. So this is Perek Daled. I know we began this last time, but we didn't get very far, so I'm going to go back. Are we okay? Is this enough of a run into the subject? Yeah? We're okay? All right. From everything we set up, so actually this always repeats in different words much of the ideas that have come in the first three Oisias. Vial Pershanal Yuven Hefresh Ben Toyu Letikin. From these examples we can understand the difference between Toyu and Tikkun. Oh, incidentally, one more thing. The Rebbe gave examples how Lamaila it works this way. Lamaila, broad kalim of Kedusha, are kalim which are able to receive contrary specifics, to be able to take contradictory aspects of a concept. And the example that was given was two examples were given. The example was given of the famine that occurred in the days of David HaMelech. For 3 years, no one could figure out what was happening or why it was happening. David HaMelech apparently consulted the Urim V'Tumim through the Kohen Gadol, and the answer he got that this famine in the land is for two reasons. One reason is because of Shaul HaMelech, that he was not given a proper hesped, as befits a king chosen by the Rabbanu Shloim. And the second reason is because Shaul, the Lashon is that he killed off the Giboinim. He didn't actually kill them off, but who he did kill off were the Kohanim of Noiv. And the Giboinim in some way were dependent upon the Kohanim of Noiv for their livelihood, so it credits Shaul as if he killed the Giboinim. Why it didn't say he killed the Kohanim of Noiv, I don't know. But that's the way it's stated. So here you have a response to two exact opposites. On the one hand, Shaul is not given covet he deserves. He's been cheated of his covet, and therefore this has to be addressed. On the other hand, Shaul did a terrible thing, and there has to be until that terrible thing is requited in some way, which in fact it didn't work out altogether. But until such a time as there's forgiveness from the Gevonim L'mashal, so then there's got to be consequences. The fact that you have one consequence for two totally antithetical incidents is very sophisticated. The Keli said, this is true and that's true. To say really the real thing, I mean, Shaul bumped off the Givonim, this is horrible, but he wasn't given a hesped and Nish Givonim. No. It's the tendency, the desire to simplify, to take it as a klal, to find a bad guy somewhere in it, or to make it, put it in simplistic terms, to take the tension out of it. That's human nature. It's mitzad katnus. The fact is, both are true, both are real, both have their impact, both have their effect. That's the essence of kedusha, is that the truth is that kedusha encompasses all truth, and truth happens to quite often be contradictory and antithetical. Chesed is chesed, gevurah is gevurah. They're not the same thing. They're often in conflict with one another.
Certainly gives a good lesson for us that kavod, giving kavod, is not dependent on how that person acts. Exactly. Whether the parent was a good parent or not a good parent, they have to get kavod.
Yeah, exactly.
And same thing with the Rebbe.
For independent reasons. Exactly, right. Yeah. Exactly so. Independent of whatever else they've done or haven't done. That's a good point. Very good point. Okay, so we can understand the difference between Torah and Tikkun. Shnikra b'Sifrei Kabbalah, which is called in Sifrei Kabbalah b'Shem Igulim v'Yosher. So now we have two new names to apply to Toyu and Tikkun. Toyu is referred to by Lashon Igulim. Igulim literally means circles. We know it from Hasidus as makifim. These are arais. Well, here we're talking in terms of or. Actually, these Igulim refer to the kelim of Toyu. So let's leave it as the concept of a circle. You have circles, and Tikkun is referred to by the Lashon Yosher. Yosher is straight. Yosher refers basically to tzir of Adam, the form of man, in which all the parts of the individual interact in a harmonious way to sustain and support the entire being. It's aros v'kelim. The kelim are broad, and the kelim can tolerate each other, and not only tolerate each other, but give and take from each other to produce the totality, which is an extremely complex totality of a human being, a unified human being with multiple capabilities and potentials and possibilities, but behaving and acting as a single individual. Igulim are circles. Circle is a geometric form which has no top, it has no bottom, there's no right, there's no left, it has no definition, and therefore it imposes no definition. It has nothing it doesn't have borders. It has a single border, but every point on the border could be the beginning, could be the end. It could be the top, could be the bottom. It makes no difference. There's no distinction. There's no differentiation. A circle does not differentiate. So that's the katnus of the small kelim of Olam HaToyu. The Olam HaTikkun hu b'chinas Yosher. Olam HaTikkun is Yosher. B'chinas kelim rechovim, which means broad vessels. The Hatoyu hu b'chinas igul toyu, the small vessels. This is referred to as igul. These vessels are referred to as igulim, circles. B'chinas kelim katanim, small vessels. The thing is like this. Dine anuroyim, we see. Oid hefresh bein katan l'gadol. Okay, so the one thing we know, that the characteristic of a small vessel, of a keli katan, is that it takes everything b'derech klal, black and white. That's the way it looks. In other words, it's the first machshava, first glance, taking everything at face value at first glance. That's what it is. That's what it is. There are no ameliorating considerations, and there's nothing else. That's the way it is. So that's this much we know. It takes everything b'derech klal. There's another thing. When a tinuk considers in his mind a particular inyan, in his brain, hine kol machshavasai ba. The whole mind is in it. There's no room for anything else. V'loy nishar loy makom panui klal l'choshev oid davar zar v'zulosai. No room. There's no room to think of any. I can't. There's no. This is it. This is the terrible thing. I'm not getting my toy. But and if you're good, and if you get good grades, and if you calm down, and so you won't get the toy, you get another. All of this is around. Not only because he's taking it b'derech klal. He has no place in his mind to even think such things, because he is totally absorbed, totally encompassing this concept, this klal. These two things are part and parcel of each other. The way you take something derech klal is it becomes your totality. It becomes an obsession in a sense. V'hu mipnei koton daitoi. This is because his das is small. V'toifes ese inyim derech b'klolos. So the two things go together. Because he takes everything b'derech klal, for that reason there's no room for anything else. The klal completely inundates him. Levad. Umitzad, because of this gufa movement, sha'etzel hatinuk mutfes inyan toich machshavas. Because of this, mamish because of this gufa movement, it's understood sha'etzel hatinuk with respect to the child, mutfes inyan toich machshavas. The concept that he's dealing with is taken in his mind, in the midst of his mind. Umachshavasai makifa mikol sad. His machshava encompasses it from every angle. That's what he's engaged in, nothing else. For example, someone imagines in the mind an implement of some sort, in his brain and in his machshava. So this is a common concept. We're familiar with this from Tanya, that a person thinks about something, imagines something. You picture in your mind the Rock of Gibraltar. So now, what does it mean? It means the Rock of Gibraltar is encompassed by your mind. That picture is totally encompassed by the thinking, by the machshav of the individual. It's taken in its totality. That's what it is. And not when a person pictures the Rock of Gibraltar, you're not thinking about details. You're not looking for the cracks. You're not. It's a singular experience in which the mind encompasses the entire thing. It doesn't settle in the mind. It's not something the mind ingests or takes in b'panemius. It's a picture after all. It's an imagining after all, and therefore it's b'derech makif. The mind is makif, encompasses it, surrounds it. This is what's called machshava achas. Machshava achas literally means the first thought. For our idiom, a first glance would be a good approximation of this. You see something, at first glance you see, this is gewaldig, this is horrible. That's machshava achas, and that's what you take in. Since you have no real concept of what you're looking at, you've just taken in a totality of something, b'derech klal, so that's the way it stays. And that your response to it is a black or white response. Shein ba hischalkus. There's no hischalkus. There's no dissection of the thing you're considering. There's no particularization here. Omnom begodl. So that's with a child. That's with an immature mind. Again, just b'derech hagav, if you think about society today, I mean, society runs on katnas hakeli. Okay, the whole advertising industry is designed to make impressions, makif diki impressions that people are going to take b'derech klal and not think too much about. Because if you think too much about it, it's not going to work. Politics is based 100% on this. This guy's horrible. You know what he did? He cheated on his wife. He did this. He could be a fantastic state. A person's a complicated being. They do all sorts of dimensions to a person. He may have greatness within him. He's got flaws like everybody else. But this is already the machshava achas. This is what you see. This is what they show you on television or the internet or whatever. And the public is our children. So that's the way they take it. And the guy's dead in the water. There's no such thing as tshuva either. Begodl shkeli meichai rechavim. In a godel, the vessels of the mind are broad. Rechavim tfisasai behinyan ein b'chinas machshava achas. In a broad mind, an adult mind, mature mind, a concept is taken in not at a first glance. It's contemplated. First glance means there is no contemplation. It's an impression. It's an intellectual or mental impression. In an adult mind, there could still be the impression, but the very next step in that impression is to begin to look at it from all of its sides and angles to see what you really have here, not just this makiftic impression. Ki im barachava gedoyle u'machoylekes b'ribui chalokim. It's taken in a very broad way, and it's dissected in all its dimensions and its pratim and specifics, which certainly contribute to the overall impression, but may add a lot more as well. These are all taken into consideration, and they're looked at in detail, each prop b'fnei atzmai. You can't say such a person's machshava is makif the thing. It's comes to imagination, and there it is, and then you forget about it. It's settled in his head. It's taken on. It's been digested. It's been particularized in different parts. Have been analyzed. Been prioritized. It's been evaluated. And therefore it becomes a reality, and it's not something makifim tend to come and go. This no longer comes and goes. This is something worthy of some contemplation, worthy of thought, and if it becomes worthy of thought, it becomes part and parcel of a person's thinking. It becomes internalized, and the person then is really engaged in it. Not just it's not a matter of a quick imagining. It's a matter of really ingesting the significance, the meaning of what you're seeing or what you're thinking. Because it is not just a flash in your mind, in this mitzumtzum dike way, a picture in your mind, but on the contrary, it comes with all of its particulars and specifics. For this reason, gufa, this reason itself, for this reason, one can at the same time contemplate opposites, other things. Davar zar literally means an alien thing. Now it's not exactly alien because it's part and parcel of the general concept, but you could see the negativity in something. So the alien dimension might be to consider, something, maybe there's justification in some way for this that I didn't think of before, that now it's occurring to me for the first time, that maybe I should do tshuva in some way, or maybe the person who inflicted this on me, I haven't given him enough thought. I don't really know what goes on in his life. I don't know what it's all about. So you have a person now who's expanded his scope to consider possibilities that you'd never consider. Oh, he insulted me. Hang him. Burn him. This is why the hasaga, the grasp of a tinuk, because the grasp is not the right word, the understanding of a tinuk is described as igulim circles. He instantaneously swallows the whole thing without chewing, and he encompasses the whole thing instantaneously, kamay eagle, like a circle which just envelops. Bli hischalkus roish soif toich soif yomen usmal. There is no right, like a circle. See, he's an eagle after all. There's no right, there's no left, there's no top, there's no bottom, there's no middle, no outside, no inside. It is one total impression. A word impression is a very good one because an impression is a makif. Again, makifim beklal do not, by nature, are not settled. It's a revelation of some sort, but it's not a settled revelation. It's very hard to hang on to a makif. They disappear very readily for obvious reasons because they're not typhus in anything. They don't stick. They're not ingested. They don't have corners or angles which define them and which give a person something to grasp. Ki im machshava achas, pshuta, one single shot. This is good or this is bad. Period. Oval hasogas hagodol. However, the understanding of an adult, hu b'chinas yosher, is in a way of yosher. Berui b'hischalkus, with a great deal of particularization, pratim, v'seder, roish, soif, yomen, v'smoil, and a person can take a concept and identify what about the concept is good, what about the concept is not good, what is important in the concept, what is not important in the concept. Just stop to think about it. When we go back to the Dr. Noah with the needle, probably the least important thing in that incident is being stuck with the needle. The most important thing is the refuah. But someone with an adult mind would be able to prioritize it. Would be able to see both things in the concept because it's not just a makifdik experience. And again, think about it from everybody said the whole horror of the experience is really before. It's the contemplation of getting stuck. The stick itself is garnished. Quite often I can remember myself not even feeling it. Okay? Afterwards, what happens to the terror? gone. Why? It's only a makif. It's not real. It's not typhus makom. V'alpi kol anal, from all of what has preceded, yovan inyan igulim d'toyu. We can understand in some way the igulim d'toyu. The Rebbe is taking a great deal of time to develop this idea. In fact, the rest of this ice is pretty much devoted to it, because when we move on to the next mimer, it's going to become very useful for us. So this is something we're putting in our pocket to keep in mind. Shu kelim ketayav inyan igulim of toyu. So the igulim of toyu are kelim ketanim, the small vessels. Dihine ha'igulim yaitze tchila mehamaitzel. The igulim issue at the outset from the emanator. They emerge as nefesh, as only nefesh. I think this is a point which the Rebbe brought up a bit earlier, but he's bringing it up again. So, what is nefesh? We consider the 5 madregas of a neshama. You have nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayichida. So the nefesh is the lowest, most animal aspect of a neshama. It's the most natural dimension of the intuitive, instinctive nature of a neshama, and therefore that's typical. That's what igulim are all about. Vahinu shohesa ora hamaitzil rak bedera klolis ubedera katsara. It itself is an expression, and it's designed, the way it emerges and what it is designed to take things as impressions, only as klolim, as general ideas, general concepts. Bedera kitzer, in an abbreviated way. That's actually the first time we're hearing the word kitzer, but it also goes back to a klal. A klal is a kitzer. It's a few words which encompass many particulars and specifics. So this is the nature of nefesh, and the igulim emerge as a category of nefesh. V'zeu b'chinas kelim ketanim. This is what kelim ketanim are of toyu. She'ir bohem b'chinas or kloli, which illuminates in them a general or, a klolistic or, levad. That's all. Al derech moshel, for example, and the Rebbe is repeating a little bit here. Hanal has been explained before. B'hasogas hatinuk shemakabel esa inyan b'derech klolusoi b'machshava achas. Like the child who takes in a whole inyan with one swallow, machshava achas, and he takes it in as a general impression. Levad, only. K'maykein b'klolim b'kelim d'toyu b'chinas chesed. Similarly, the kelim of toyu, for example, chesed, hoyu b'chinas or kloli, v'loy hoyu boy b'chinas hagavura. So this is a consequence. So the Rebbe now takes a specific keli of a specific example from Olam HaTohu. Keli of chesed, if keli of gevurah as well. What is the keli of chesed of toyu capable of? Chesed. That's all. That's all it sees. That's all it knows. That's all it cares about. And that's what it is. It's as far as it's concerned, that's all that exists. Anything else other than chesed is a contradiction to it. It's an imposition on its yeshus. So that's it, because of katnas hakeli. That's what it does. It sees chesed, and that's all it sees. And it sees it b'derech klal. It doesn't see the true chesed. It sees an overriding klolistic chesed. B'chinas or kloli. V'loy hoyu boy b'chinas hagavur. There is no place in the keli of chesed for gevurah. That gevurah should exist in chesed, and that chesed should exist in gevurah, is absolutely essential to any relationship. If there's no, you have a loving relationship with somebody, you have to be able to say no sometimes. You have a loving relationship with the child. Sometimes you have to punish the child or do things the child finds difficult. It's an expression of gevurah. It's caused by the same motivation for which you reward the child, which is love. The whole thing is love. And for love to be completely, like any truth, love has to encompass all possibilities. It has to encompass gevurah, it has to encompass chesed, because any one thing alone is not emes la'amitai. Chesed on its own, in the relationship of a parent with a child, results, you're killing your child, results in a spoiled child. So the worst thing you can do is to inundate your child with chesed with no consequences to his behavior. not taking into account what the child does. On the other hand, Gevurah can be absolutely disastrous. It can be a crushing thing. There's got to be a mix. Again, the child sees these b'derech klal. So my kids, when they were small, used to get all excited on Friday for a number of reasons. One of them was that the Shabbos Tati is coming. Who's the Shabbos Tati? That's me. But it's a persona which they only see on Shabbos, in which I turned a blind eye to everything, and let them, candy, cake, whatever we had. I just, during the week it would be problematic. Shabbos, cake is ready. Have a wonderful time because that's all there was to it. There was no reprimand. There were no reprimands on Shabbos. As soon as Havdalah was made, this other monster parachuted into the scene. The Shabbos Tati disappeared. And I can tell you, Rabbi Isai, when they were small, they saw it as two separate personas. They saw it as two separate dimensions. One was good. The Shabbos Tati was, in their eyes, good. And the non-Shabbos Tati was not good. They knew in some way that I still loved them and it was still good in some way. But they were not capable of giving the same attention and the same appreciation to the Gevurah as they were to the Chesed, because Chesed and Gevurah were two different things. They took a b'derech klal. They couldn't see a b'derech prat.
Would you say that the Kalim and Eilam Atayu lack bittul?
Absolutely.
So, how is it possible? I mean, we have a klal, the Alter Rebbe sets forth in Tanya, that in Kedusha, the closer you are to Hashem, the more bittul there is. Chesed Avram is bittul and everything else. So here in Eilam Atayu, which is Tachas HaKedush, it's Ribuyor, it's Gilui, it's all these things. How is it possible that the Kalim there lack bittul? Okay, it should be more bittul there.
So that's a fabulous question. In fact, really, it's the focus of the whole Hemshech. Really.
Okay, fine.
No, because you have. You're right. Toyu is above Oilam Atikin. The areas of Toyu are Kadosh Givaldig. I mean, we're talking about a level of Kedusha which is fabulous. Question is, what's the Kavanah Elyoinah? So we began with Achrei-Mos, B'nai Aaron, Nadav Avihu. What did they do? They went out of their Kalim. They had an Aliyah. They had a Kleis Nefesh, a Ratzai, that just took them out. I mean, they were incompatible. They incompatible with physical life, and they simply expired for love of Hashem. So that's a very nice thing. That's the essence of Yeshus. It is such Yeshus, holy Yeshus, but Yeshus. Because who's it all about? It's about them. It's not about God. God is not interested in them in having a dira be'elyonim. He's interested in dira b'tachtonim. And these two great tzaddikim. I mean, this is a problem with tzaddikim. We're talking about Yeshus and a tzaddik. Here you could probably use the term. These two great tzaddikim were so overwhelmed with love that they had a ratzai. But the problem with love is there's a lover, and the lover loves because there's something in it for him. And in the case of these two tzaddikim, it was about them. It wasn't about the Rebbeinu Shalom. What does the Rebbeinu Shalom want? What Rebbe Akiva did. Rebbe Akiva had the same aliyah. The four rabbis went into the Pardes. The Rebbe mentioned this earlier in the Maimer. Rebbe Akiva went in b'sholom and he came out b'sholom. Because he went in b'sholom, in other words, it wasn't about him. It was about the Rebbeinu Shalom. The whole idea of the Ratzai was to bring something back. It wasn't simply to experience Kleis Nefesh and to fulfill, and it's the natural inclination by the Nefesh Elokis to have this Kleis Nefesh. And we're talking about a very lofty thing. But that's not the Kavanah of Hashem. And therefore that's what Bittul is. Bittul is what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants, not what a recipient of the Rebbeinu Shalom's or wants. And the pasuk actually will get to it in the next mimer. The Rebbeinu Shalom created the world for to be occupied, not for Toyu. Toyu is not. That's not what it's about. It's about Edir b'tachtonim. Tachtonim means that it's got to be mamish tachtonim.
Wouldn't that be felt there? I mean, wouldn't, because of the great Gilui?
No, it's not.
Why are the Caleb not getting the message?
Okay, we're gonna see. We're gonna see a little bit later on. But it's a very sophisticated question, a very subtle question, and there's a lot. We'll get there. I'm sorry, Chloe. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hoyu b'chinas or klali v'loy hoyu b'chinas hagvura v'hischalkus klal. So in the keli of chesed of toyu, it's got room for only chesed. That's what it is, because that's what it is. U'kamai kain midas hagvura. Same thing's true of midas hagvura. So you can imagine right off the bat then, if the keli of chesed cannot imagine anything other than chesed. After all, we'll see later on, it's a keser of chesed. It's pure. I mean, absolute purity. So it looks at Gevurah and says, well, what's he doing there? It's another aspect of the Eshes. It's totally, Gevurah is a total contradiction. The klal of chesed is a total contradiction of the klal of Gevurah. The klal of Gevurah is a total contradiction of the klal of chesed. Because they're not able to interact, they can't dissect the chesed and Gevurah, and they can't see the commonality between themselves. Everything, it's all Gevurah. There's no room for anything else. Who b'chinas or kloli? Why is it or kloli, as we've described? Who inyan machshava achas klolos? Again, the Rebbe uses the same lashon. This machshava achas is a beautiful expression. It really says it like it is. It's an instantaneous, shallow, superficial impression. But because it's instantaneous, it's shallow, it's general, superficial, does not mean it's not intense. On the contrary, makifim are far more intense than or that comes b'his yashvus. Why? Because the or by definition is not an or which comes into kalim. It's not an or which is particularized and settled. As soon as you particularize an or, the intensity is lost. The gain is tremendous because you're getting to the intent of the or, but the high, shall we say, is gone. Shein ba ma'alu mata roish toif soif yom small. So that's the keli of chesed. There is no right, left, top, bottom, middle ground, or anything else. V'lachein nikru hakelim shel ha'ayros tetoyu b'shemi gulim. The kelim of Torah are called igulim for the same reason. Kamay ha'igulim she'ein by his chalkas, because igulim circles have no defining characteristics. Every point on the circle is like every other point on the circle. So that's why in the case of igulim, they are organized in a linear fashion, one under the other. They're independent. You got chesed. As long as chesed is active, so Gevurah can't come into the picture. Gevurah come into the picture, chesed has to shut up. Gevurah can now come into the picture. There are a series, in this case, of nekudos in a linear arrangement. You do not find in one anything of the other, klal at all. Because the or is or klali, and therefore you have these 10 independent entities, 10 independent kalim, which are not really able to take or. They're not able to bear the or, as we'll see later on. Sha'or godel harba shaloi be'erech hakeli. The or is of a nature which is far beyond the capacity of the keli klal. V'nasa b'chinas or choizer, and it becomes in a way of or choizer. V'zeu hoyu sibis hashvir, and this is the cause of the shvir. So let's just look at this once again. So they're arranged as in a linear sequence of independent spheres, independent kalim. So how does it work in Tikkun? Tikkun, you have Gimel Kavan. Okay? You got Chochmah, Chesed, and Netzach. You've got, that's on the right. On the left, you've got Bina, Gevurah, Hoid. Dead center, you have Das, you have Tiferes, you have Yisoid. And because Das, Tiferes, Yisoid, Kav Ha'em Tzoi is the Emes La'amitoy, it creates a commonality, a chibur, between all of the right and the left that interact through this middle Kav, and you have a functioning, interacting dynamic of possibilities which can give to each other, which can support each other, which can synergize with each other, and you have a system essentially. In Olam HaTikkun, in Olam HaToyu, there is no system. There are 10 independent possibilities which don't know of each other, don't talk to each other, and have nothing to do with each other. So this is an extremely important idea, and the Rebbe is going to get to this also in more detail later on. Go Parshas Vayishlach. which is actually what the Rebbe quotes down here. Yaakov Avinu, when he was about to confront Esav, so he divided his camp into two. So the pshat is very, very simple. Rashi points out that so Esav will destroy one camp, so then the other will escape. It's a fairly reasonable military strategy. But that wasn't the essence of the strategy. The essence of the strategy is that Esav is Tohu. Tohu does not know of his scholars. Tohu, there's no kav hem tsoy to be mahaber right and left, chesed and gevurah, to find a common ground and an or which encompasses the entire truth. Esav is two kavan that don't talk to each other, and therefore the whole idea of the two camps, everything he did with Esav is designed to be able to be mavar Esav, all considering the structure of Tohu, essentially. The animals, the camels, the non-kosher animals, the numbers, the two camps, all of these things are designed to accommodate Olam HaTohu, to ultimately to be Mavar Olam HaTohu, to correct Olam HaTohu, which is what Yaakov Avinu had in mind. Didn't work. We're still in the process. But that was the kavanah. So two kavan with nothing to mediate between the two, that's pirud, which is essentially what this is. So in the case of Tohu, where there are 10 possibilities, one under the other, no one of them has anything from the others. Being that the or, which is shaykh to them, is or klali, therefore they can't really contain the or. They're not capable really of containing or. The or is of a very great intensity, a great magnitude. This requires explanation. You could say, well, why can't the or be tailored to the kalim? The katnas kalim, you could have katnas or maybe, or something. Why? We're going to see a little bit later on. We have to see the relationship of kalim to or, which we can, again, something we'll see a bit later on. Shaloi be'erech hakeli, the or is not be'erech hakeli klal. V'nasa b'chinas or choizer, and of this is or choizer. Or choizer literally means a returning light. So there's or yosher, Seder yosher, in which or filters through Seder Shtalshalis. It's measured, balanced to kalim. It's containable by kalim. It illuminates in an appropriate way, and it creates a possibility of a system of interaction. Or choizer is not shaykh to hamshacha altogether. Or choizer, remember when I said we began this mimer with the idea of or is essentially gevurah. In essence, or is gevurah. Why? Because the nature of or is to be davik b'mokar. The nature of or is not hispashtus. It's not gilui. The nature of or is dveikus. And therefore, in order to get or to move contrary to its teva, requires oisius or kalim or levushim or something which the inyan is hamshacha, the inyan is mitzias, the inyan is yurida. Or is dveikus, it's aliyah, it's ayin. So. Or by its own nature is really or choizer. It's or which is in a constant state of aliyah and a constant state of dveikus, and that's what you get from shvira. The or is not shaykh. There's nothing to maintain it. There's nothing for it to hang on to, so to speak. There's nothing to ingest it, and therefore it returns to its source, which is what happened to the or aris of tohu by shvira sakelim.
I'm saying the fact that there's no choizer. There's no air. Why does it do the kill to be a shvira?
Pardon?
You're saying that the
Nasa. So it says or a godel harba shaloi be'erech hakeli klal v'nasa b'chinas or choizer. It's made or choizer. It becomes or choizer.
So it becomes or choizer. What does that have to do with the kelim, the shvira and the kelim?
In other words, the or that's responsible for shvira sekalim was the result. We're going to see this later on, just briefly. Was the result of a ratzei of the kalim. Now the kalim being in a state of katnus when this is the b'chol mi'adecha. Okay, beyond the ratzei was beyond the capacity of the kalim, and therefore the or that was mamshech was taka or ein soif, beyond the capacity of limitation, which is essentially or choizer.
So you should have said the air was God havish leberach hakeli, And this was a Shviras HaKeli. V'zeh nasa, v'tzad zeh nasa Achrei-Mos.
Not mitzad zeh. The Or Chayzer by in essence is Or Chayzer. Or Ein Sof is Or Chayzer. The fact that you have Or which comes to Panimis is a miracle. But again, that's not our goal at the moment. It's a very good. I don't mean to put the question off, but I think you'll get more insight into it as we go on. Yeah, V'zehu sibus hashir. This is the cause of the shvira. So the Or itself is Or Chayzer. The nature of the Or that was mamshech is Or Chayzer. As will be explained later on in Mir Hashem. So was going to tell us all about this.
So in other words, this keli was not mamshech the proper Or.
Exactly. It's not proper keli. It's not mamshech the proper Or. Omnam, b'chinas hatikin hu, b'chinas kelim rechavim. Tikin is quite the opposite. It's broad vessels. Urchavasa hakeli ba b'madrega hayoser gvoya shebamaitzel. Again, very kitzer, very kitzer. As the Rebbe is going to explain this later on as well. So Yerachmiel brought up the point that Olam HaTohu is higher than Olam HaTikin. The artists of Tohu are kaddish beyond belief. I mean, we're talking about artists which are Tikin would give its right arm for those artists. These are artists. This is Mamish Ein Sof. So how does it work? How come Tikin works, and this holy Tohu does not? Because in Shorish, Tikkun is what's wanted. In Shorish, the mocker of Tikkun is higher than the mocker of Tohu. Why? Because Tikkun is the beginning point, the tachlis of creation of the world. That the world should be settled. That the world should operate in a harmonious, real way. And that rather than having everything ascend in intensity, that godliness should descend in a way which is absorbable by the world, and that's the Nivdera B'tach Torah. So Olam HaTikin, the question you can ask, and the way this preempts the question that we began with, if to be Mamshech Ein Sof requires an avodah b'chol me'adecha, so how does Tikin work? Tikin Tak is ours v'kelim. The shorosh of Tikin is higher than the shorosh of Tohu, Sof kol Sof. We say that Begilu it's the other way around. The reason that we, for example, are sustained by food, by plant life, by animal life. Hey, come on, they're lower on the food chain than we are. How is it possible that we, which are high energy, high maintenance beings of an extremely lofty nature, could possibly be sustained by something as low as a plant, as a carrot, as a potato? So the answer is, but the shorosh of the plant, the potato, is higher than the shorosh of Odom. The shorosh of the plant, the potato, is Olam HaTohu, the orders of which are Ein Sof, and the shorosh of of man is Olam HaTikin, Shem Ma. So that's the way it really works out. But if that's the case, then how are we supposed to impose a birur on the products of Olam HaTohu, namely all the things in this world which are of Klippus Noiga? Shorosh is Olam HaTohu. The reason is that the ultimate shorosh of Tikkun is higher than Tohu, and therefore the bottom line. There's a lot of complexity here. The bottom line is that Odom, which is Neshamas Yisrael and a Guf, are what it is all about. Nothing can stand in the way, and anything can be accomplished by that situation, by us.
So why do we need Tohu?
Why? It's not a matter of why we need. So that's a very good question. We need Tohu. Because were it not for Tohu, the world were created as Tikkun, which would be, let's say, Atzilus. If the world were created at Tzilustik, so then we have no meaning, we have no significance, we have no free will, we have no Avodah, and we're of no use, we're of no value, we're Malachim. Okay, so let's call it quits here. Are we okay on this? Yeah. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem will continue next week, same time, same station.
Is there any way for Tohu to acquire Kelim Rechavim?
No, the Kelim of Tohu are gone. You're dealing with the Kelim of Tohu every time you eat your supper. Okay, you're dealing with shards of Tohu. That's what Klippus Noiga is. It's the end result of the Shvira.
Yes, the idea is to get the Eidos of Tohu and the Kelim of Tikkun.
That's the point. Yeah.
Why am I dealing with the Kelim, the broken Shvira?
What is a Klippa?
Instead of, why am I not dealing with the Eidos? In other words, when I'm eating...
The Eidos went away.
There are no Eidos anymore. The Eidos have reverted to their selves.
What does the Kelim mean? What does it mean that... What do you mean by a Kelim? Bring down the Eidos. I don't mean bring down Kelim. Kalim?
No.
Kalim of Teo were Kalim Khanim. I want to bring it.
The sharish, the sharish, and the nitzutzos of or, which are in those shards, are extremely lofty, and that's the whole nature of tikkun. Is to
There's nothing left in the Kalim.
no, that's not true. There's no or left in the kalim, but there's a reshima of or nitzutz. These are the nitzutzos. These are ramachnu, the rapachnu tzutzos.
Why do I have to waste my time with the Kalim?
We'll find out. We'll find out in good time.